Welcome everyone to our webinar today, which is enhancing building safety, bringing fire protection data into BIM. So today's presenters are myself. I'm a senior account manager here at Symmetry. We have Nicholas Stranafors as a senior consultant at Symmetry in the Bimfire team. And we also have Christian Wagner, who's a technical lead at Artilia. I'm a senior account manager here at Symmetry, and I would have been with the business 11 years in December. I've been heavily involved with the Bimfire technology since its introduction to the UK. There's a QR code to my LinkedIn page, an email address here as well. So if you'd like to get in contact with me to discuss anything we present today, please do so. Just a quick overview of the agenda. So we've got the introduction coming from myself next, then I'll be passing over to Nicholas, who will be doing a bit on delivering FIREie data, and then Christian will be doing a session on integrating fire data into BIM, and then we're going to end with a summary and Q&A at the end. So here at Symmetry, we've continuously expanded to provide even better solutions and services to more markets. We're now sat at around 1,000 employees in 7 countries and 33 offices throughout Europe and North America with 400 users daily. Since being founded in Sweden in 1989, we have grown through 23 acquisitions and organic growth, and our revenue in 2022 was 3.1 billion Swedish krona, or 230 million pounds. Our purpose here is to challenge people to work smarter for a better and more sustainable future. And our mission is to enable businesses to gain a competitive advantage by using leading edge technologies and solutions to improve their performances. We have our Symmetry Technology division here at Symmetry, which are solutions developed internally designed to reduce cost and increase your productivity. Naviate is an ecosystem of automation and productivity tools for Revit, and that's where the Bimfire solution sits. We have an extensive community of users which inform the development roadmap for Naviate. There's also an access to an e-learning platform, and we often see Naviate enabling customers to consolidate things like Dynamo scripts and remove other plugins from their technology stack. FIREie is a solution which creates and manages product design and product information and integrates it with the various value chains and over the product lifecycle. With CQ here, we have 2 different modules, CQ Flexmon and CQI. CQ Flexmon enables companies to optimize licenses for any vendor based on true usage. It's not just Autodesk. We've seen countless companies save huge costs across Autodesk, Adobe, Trimble, and many other vendors. And then CQI is a service whereby Symmetry provides highly optimized deployment packages, and it significantly speeds up deployments. So I won't go into too much detail about Bimfire here because you'll be getting that from Nicholas and Christian. However, just to summarize, Bimfire is a solution that enables the input of fire safety information directly into Revit models quickly and with ease. We see better and more seamless collaboration between design teams, particularly between the fire engineers and the architects. We're also seeing enabling easy integration of fire safety engineers into the golden thread of information. So I'd now like to pass over to my colleague Nicholas, who will be going through his session.
Hi, welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to go through how we can use the data when we are actually having that handed over to us by specialists. We're going to talk today about fire, but with Bimfire, it actually enables any kind of specialist to populate the different kind of models within that project during stage 2. Very short about me. I'm a senior consultant here at Symmetry. Was part of the original team who created this tool from the beginning before we got acquired by Symmetry in 2022. I'm still part of the team who still develops and kind of knows the ins and outs and kind of the idea behind it. So I will go through that as well. That is the QR code as well to my LinkedIn if you want to add me. And of course, if you have any questions, just pop it in the questions bar and we will try to answer it in the end. Very short about Bimfire. The idea behind it is how can we get more information into the models where the person that actually handing that information over to you guys are the fire engineers in this case, or acoustic engineer or safety. Where we believe that the specialist who has that knowledge should populate your model so you can use it in a better way, so your design can be in focus. That is kind of the idea. So what I'm going to show is it kind of sounds boring, but the sexiest thing we got is doors, because those are quite complicated, as you guys know when working as an architect. Doors are rarely easy, and there's often mistakes. They're easy to make mistakes. So what I'm going to do is kind of showcase the comparison from the UK and Sweden. But we are selling Bimfire in 10 different regions, and we kind of see it's the same everywhere we go around Europe and the globe. But I'm going to compare these two so you can kind of at least recognize some of it. So doors. So we have those door specification sheets, and we're going to focus that primarily in my session. A lot of information that we have on our sheets are actually connected to FIREie data. It could be everything from, of course, potential signage there. It could be door closure. It could be a specific handle, the height and the width, of course, as well. But it can also be information about electricity, that you need to have something going there because it's connected, should be connected to, for instance, a fire detector. But it also is a few things that might not be there that are requirements. So for instance, these two doors are actually one of those where you need to have a door coordinator, meaning the passive door need to actually close before the active to make that fire seal perfect. And these are kind of the small things that are often missed when we are designing huge projects and we are designing. But by having fire engineers or a specialist enter the data, all the requirements that we can think of into the model on that specific component, meaning you can actually use the data in a smarter way, which we will see in the very end. These kind of drawings that we see in front of you, they are accompanied with these kind of explanation, explaining everything. And what we can see is when we think of fire safety, we don't think that so many parameters, so many lines, let's say on these kind of sheets, are actually affected. Everything from, of course, the most simple one, fire resistance, could be material, reaction to fire, frame materials, panel materials, what kind of door fitting. Could it be a door magnet on this specific door if it's connected to a smoke detection system or a fire alarm system? What kind of locks, latches, handle, etc. And we create these kind of drawings accompanied with a long schedule of all those doors within our project where we enter these kind of data. And each door is quite specific, and there's a lot of parameters that we need to enter and make sure that are correct just around fire. And as architects, that's not the only thing we need to keep an eye on. Now we got sustainability, environmental data, we got acoustic, security, accessibility, and of course, design. So they are actually growing. So these are two doors from real project. The top one is from a Swedish project, and the bottom one is from a British project. And what we can see when we take a look at these are actually that there are, first and foremost, it's a lot of parameters. It's a lot of parameters. And we take a look and go through these. I kind of highlighted here all the parameters that you can find a requirement within the fire strategy documentation. So these are something that are actually affected by fire safety or FIREie. And having all these, and of course, in this specific project, they had, like always, one parameter historically, which was just called fire requirement, something fire rating requirement, something like that. How can we make sure that all these parameters actually are compliant with the strategy documentation? I counted it. I might have miscounted, but it was 20 parameters in the Swedish one, and it was actually 35 in the UK one. Meaning it's not easy making sure that everything is compliant before handover in a project when you have those one parameters. We know that in the UK we are revising 8644-1, but I'm going to take a look at the one that's still out. They had a bunch of different parameters. As an architect or a mechanical engineer or structural engineer actually need to enter that data. And on the right-hand side, you will kind of recognize those parameters. But what I've only done here is actually showcase all those requirements that needs to be entered into the model, not the provided. So roughly saying you need to double the amount of parameters, and it's a lot of parameters. And the left-hand side, you can actually see when we started, or kind of where we are, at least in the Nordics, or at least in Sweden. These are the parameters that they most often enter into the project. And as you kind of can see on the left-hand side, we are actually using this same parameters, even though it's not really a requirement here in Sweden. So these are actually data that the fine engineers now enters into the model. Why could be the question is a lot. It takes a longer time for them, but it saves the other stakeholders so much time and so much headache just having that data up front. So how would this kind of look in a reality, like how in a real project? Uh, so here we got a schedule from a refurbished building here in Stockholm. It's a door schedule. What we can see here, if I zoom in a little bit and I zoom in a little bit more, is actually is around just above 3,400 doors in this project. Remember all those parameters that you entered on all those doors. Same procedure here. And what we have done in this project, even those Swedish requirements, because I sadly didn't find British ones, but the idea would be the same. But what we can see here, straight away here, is actually on the right-hand side, the requirement. We are kind of strange writing in meters in requirements, but that's fine. And the left side is actually the width, meaning everyone right here can do a compliance check of 3,400 doors just by watching this. You can see two rows where we have a blank line. I haven't looked into just this one, but I'm pretty sure it's curtain wall doors. But we can figure out where they are within the architect wall and make sure that they have and just enter the data, which they haven't done in this model. But we can actually start checking all those requirements pretty fast, pretty sure, where we actually have those kind of compliance into the project. When we started here in Sweden 3 years ago, we launched Naviate Bimfire here in the Nordics. We actually said not as many parameters that you had, but we started with these 6 parameters: resistance, min clear width, self-closing devices, if it would be swing free or not, smoke seal, and re-enter, possibility to re-enter. And that is kind of where we started 3 years ago, and it grew to the number of parameters that you saw earlier. Once again, okay, if the fine engineers create their own model, because they shouldn't go into your kind of models, they create their own models. We have no requirements whatsoever on the architect model, meaning the only requirement that we have is that you design as you do today. And a door is a door, a wall is a wall, a window is a window. We are happy. Follow the categories, and we're perfectly fine with that. Otherwise, we don't have any requirements. They can just place. Christian will show it later as well, how it really looks like in real life. But the question is, when you get that fire safety model, how does it work for you? How does it look for you? And when you go into a project and the fire engineer or the project is using Bimfire, it looks like this. So we take a look at kind of using this Snowden tower for you guys who step down in the Autodesk sample file. It's a new sample file, so I'm going to use this as an example. I like it because it's better looking than the old sample models. But how would it look like as an architect in this project? And there would be a fire safety model. It's very simple. It's very important for us as well, for you guys who are consuming the data, that it would be as fast as simple as possible. So you can kind of see that I already linked something, or it's visible with fire data. And I will play this video and kind of go through it. So what will happen in the beginning is that fire safety engineer will send you guys, can send it, or if you don't have the parameters, a schedule which they can save out from their model. They will save that, which you can load from insert. You load those parameters and they will automatically come into your model, will be mapped to the correct category and be shared parameters. So just with a few clicks, you will actually get, in this case, a bunch of parameters. I think it's like 8 or 9 on doors. You will see that you can go and download a free plugin from our Naviate.com webpage, and you can download something called Import from Link. Here, you will just select the fire safety model and press import whenever you feel like it. That will pull the data from that file onto the components that are yours and nothing else. So if they have added parameters, their structural models or mechanical models, it doesn't affect you at all. And it will actually start populating that object with those requirements. I will just run this through again. It's quite fast. Might even skip here. Perfect. I will pause for a second. But as you can see, all those parameters that were loaded are actually now populated. That easy it is. Now going to a schedule and start just comparing for those compliance checks. Once again, this is just fire. Theoretically, you could have any kind of specialist model and start populating this information. Very simple. You have full control which parameters you want to bring in, which parameters you want to populate, and when. You have full control. The fire engineers have full control. You decide. But once we created these kind of models, we can take it to the next step. And here I have the fortunate luck that my colleague Steve has made a video how you can start using this in ACC, both with design collaboration, of course, as a stakeholder, but as well within Build. So I'm going to share a video, which you have.
So once the model's been generated in Bimfire, we can obviously bring it in to the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And this is where obviously we can see the Revit file here generated by the architect. Obviously we can view it, we can start interrogating that data. Obviously we've got all the sectioning, so we can start seeing, you know, the detail and the fire stopping that's been placed into that model, etc. So you can be able to see the signage, making sure that everything is compliant in the way that we need it to do. But because we've got the fire data now in the model, what we can start doing is linking that into here and using it to more advantage during construction and handover. So what we can do really is, in Build, we can go into Assets. Now what we can do with Assets is obviously create categories. So if we wanted builders works, fire signage, the walls, etc., can all be brought and managed within ACC. But actually what's happening is I've brought the model in here. So this is the fire safety model that's created in Bimfire. And obviously I can bring that in, but I can actually edit mappings. And what that means is all those fire stopping penetrations and things that we've got, the builders works, can be mapped into the software. Same as the firewalls, fire signage, whatever else we've modeled in there. And what I mean by doing this mapping is the fact that we can go into the model and we can start mapping to the categories that are in the model. and start linking information. So this is data that's sat in the Bimfire model, but we can start linking that information into FIREie data and things of that. So we can really start making things intelligent, because obviously we've got to get onto site and we've got to prove that we're building and installing this fire stop into regulations and capture the evidence and that around it. So we can start linking all that back in. And once it's all brought into the system, they come in a list here. So if we wanted to look at like all the builders works, that fire stopping, you can see here we've got the list now of all the fire stopping. Now if I click on one, you can see here the data has now been populated, but it's coming from the model. And I've also got, some of the FIREie data ready and prepared. But because it's linked to that model, I can still view the model here. But you can see what this will do. It's starting now to filter that data, and it'll go straight to that wall penetration that had been modelled in the likes of Bimfire. And if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see that actually I've got penetrations all at different colours. And that's because as I'm out on site on a phone or an iPad or something, I can start using this to track exactly where that penetration is, whether it's been specified, whether it's been delivered and installed and fitted out and first fix, second fix, accepted. That's why they're all the different colours. But we can actually take it one more as well, because we can use this to capture that FIREie data. So on a phone, we can go out, we can click a barcode and get to that penetration. But now we can start putting things like installed by, the ratings, installed date. So it might be today we've done that, etc. And you can see I can start capturing that FIREie data which is needed for the Building Safety Act. We can take this one stage further as well. You can see I've got the penetration highlighted. If I hit this link, what it'll actually do is take me off into Oculo. And what it's done is Oculo has seen the assets that are in ACC and brought them through into the system. So now there's the penetration. But what I can start doing now is tracking that penetration. And every time I've walked around site, I can start tracking it week by week to see, what's actually happened with that penetration. As the extra bits have been fitted and the fire stopping is in place and closed out, we can now start tracking and monitoring that through a 360 world. So you're capturing all the evidence and everything that we need within that system. Also, what we could do is against that penetration, we could add a form. So we can add a checklist, and the checklist can be filled in to show compliance. So we've now got photographic evidence, forms, data, progress tracking, just because we've modelled it and been able to brought it through into the ACC system.
Here you can see actually how easy it is once we got the 3D model in place. We can actually start using it for a bunch of other things. And we can start tracking, getting this from design into a model with FIREie, because everything that we can see as a parameter is actually an object. But I'm not the one to tell you how this should work, even though I can. It's better for me to introduce Christian, who has been implementing this in Denmark. And I want to hand it over to him, and he will explain his journey going into a BIM world.
So I'm going to talk about how we use Naviate Bimfire here in Atelier, where I'm working here in Atelier, Denmark. First of all, I'm Christian Wagner. I used to be a chef for 15 years, but decided not to do the cooking anymore. I wanted to do something different. So I took a bachelor in architectural technology, construction management. I've been working at Atelier for 2.5 years, and here as a full-time only. The first year was a student worker, and 1.5 years full-time now. And when I started here, we did not use Naviate Bimfire. We didn't use anything. We were just Bluebeam 2D everything. But apparently I'm doing a good job, so they decided here in the spring to make me a technical lead on it because I've been working hard on it and I think it's fun. Here in Denmark, we are just over 60 employees in 7 offices, just doing fire regulations, building codes, steam regulations, CFD, evacuation, and now Naviate Bimfire as well. Atelia Denmark is just over 1,200 employees, and we have over 90 years of experience here. We have actually some of our original clients are still clients with us now. So apparently we're doing something right, I think, anyway. Not long ago, we joined with Atelia Group. That's over 8,900 people in 40 countries. It's we also have a small branch in UK. That's 200 people and growing, I think. And the thing I like about it here is that it's employee owned. So everybody here is working in the best interest of the company, because otherwise you're not here. When you leave the company, you have to sell the stocks you have. So, and you can feel that working here. We're doing buildings, of course, energy, industry, and pharma. Pharma is really big in Denmark right now, and infrastructure. So I'm going to talk about how we use Naviate Bimfire here. And first of all, what is it? It's a plugin designed for easy data transfer between the different models, and it's designed by fire safety engineers. So we know what, or they know what they want. Say we, it's because I feel so invested in this by now. It's used in 10 different countries, and UK is one of them. I started out in Sweden. Denmark came in about a year ago with me and some other companies, and it's just working for us. So we're going to keep doing it. So why do we need it? It's because it's easy and fast for us to create flow plans, fire plans. When you have an updated model all the time, then it eases the workflow, and it spots mistakes earlier in the process. The clients are starting to demand it here in Denmark, and it's probably going to be regulation at some point as well. We can see it starting trending around Europe that you have to do it. So when it's here to stay, we might as well get on board and be a part of the journey and get to influence it and see what's working, what's not working. What you can see here in the video is how easy it is to take a wall. You simply just click on the wall, and it's added the fire regulation code to it. It's very simple for us. As stated, you always have an updated model. Cooperation, very, very good. When you do it our way, it's also easy for cost to find out what do we need, how do we do it, because we have set the requirements for the walls, so they know, oh, this gypsum wall actually has a fire regulation demand on it, and this one doesn't. Facility management also likes it, because suddenly it's easy for them to see what requirement there is on all walls and doors in their 3D model. And in Denmark, we have this yellow glass here. That means there's no fire demand on it, except you have to see through it. But everything else is a fire cell. And as you can see atop it, there's a small piece of wall. That one is almost always forgotten to put in a fire demand on it. It's a fire cell here in Denmark, so that it has to have a 60-minute. And now it's easy for a constructor to see it. We'll show even more later on how that's done. This is my very, very first time. When I came here as a student worker, I was given free hands to try and build my own 3D model, and I did. And I still use it, actually, because the project's not finished. It takes about 10, 15 minutes to open, so it's very heavy, even though it's not a complex building. But what I found here is we have rescue openings in these round windows. And I was looking in 3D model and said, there's something wrong here. We need to have a small bar to put the ladder up against when you're putting up a ladder. Otherwise, it's not up to regulations, and the opening has to have some dimension. They didn't have that. So because I was sitting in 3D looking at this, we found the mistake, or it wasn't a mistake there, but it would have been if we were standing on site installing the windows and the guy said, can we check this box? And it's okay. No, we can't. Then you'd have to get all the windows out, retrofit them, or order brand new ones, and that would delay the project by months, because in Denmark, to open a building, you need 2 signatures. It's the static engineer and it's the fire engineer. So it's critical that this is up to date, and they won't sign it if it's not up to date. Here comes the big thing. Architects, they like to change walls and dimension and rooms and everything, and that's their job. So they have to do that. You have to optimize the design. But for us in fire safety, that can be hard. So here I just took a wall, deleted something, and extended the other wall so it's bigger. And normally when this is done, you have the old PDF and the new PDF. You get a piece of paper from an architect saying, we changed this. But to make sure everything is found, we normally have to sit and check everything. And finding these mistakes or not mistakes, changes can be hard. So this is actually a colleague of mine. His children, they're giving the new and the old drawing, and they sit and find differences, discrepancies on it, and see where have they changed something. It's not optimal, first of all, because the Saturday and Sunday morning is going by with this, and here in Attila, we really don't endorse child labor, so we have to do something different. So what you see now is here, you go in and you just put audit trail and see what's going to happen. And it states here that 2 walls have been deleted and 1 has been modified. And you say, okay, okay. And suddenly you have colors on the wall saying that one has been deleted. So it's red. Then you delete it manually. The other one that's been changed, and I mentioned before, you just go in and you say resolve and accept it. And my model changes everything, and the wall is now grayed out because there is no discrepancies between my model and the architect models. Very, very simple. So that was the one way from the architects to me. But sometimes I have a requirement going the other way or a note going the other way. And the way we found out how to do that the best way is I put a 3D comment box in, and I write what I have of demand or a requirement for this certain area. And on the right side, you see that's a sheet that I designed with Nicholas, that everything is gray toned except this box that I put in, where I put in, this is what's going on. You have a requirement here, and there is a schedule on it. So my comment is written in the schedule, and I just print these drawings once a week and send it to the architects and saying, oh, you have to be aware that this is going on here, and that eases their way to do it. They could also look into Dalos or into Revisto or whatever view you have, or look in emails and everything. But for me, I found this is the best way to do it. Visual communication. It's simple, it's fast, and it's working for us. So that's why we did it. Then the thing is, if you do 2D floor plans, you don't really take that much of account into the floors. You're just writing in your manual and saying, oh, here we have this demand or with this requirement. And in this project here, we had no requirements to the floors between 2 levels, ground floor and first floor. But if you have a fire cell there, then you do have a requirement. So I had to make sure that that was conveyed, and that could give some small discrepancies again and small challenges. And what I did here was to make sure that you get this small corner here as well from the first floor as well. And then in the end, you just click OK, and you can go into a 3D, and you can see there it is. There is where you have requirements. And that makes it's really important for the installation people, because if they place their duct in the corridor and the ground floor between the meeting rooms, suddenly they have a requirement in the ceiling. But if they move 2 meters out, there's no requirement. So they can save money by optimizing their design according to this model, instead of doing it safe and saying, oh, it's all a cell. The big question my boss asked me was, are you going to spend more time on this? Is it going to be more expensive? And I said, yes, I will probably spend more time. First of all, they will get feedback more often if they want it. But of course, you can also do, in Denmark, we have 2 hand-ins, and that's basically it. But we can do weekly, as we're doing on some of our projects now. So it's going to be more costly in fire engineers, but you can optimize your design, as I saw before. So the other trades, they can spend less time on the project, and that's going to save them money. So that's good. So in overall, the project is going to save money. And here in Atelia, that's because we have all the branches, all the disciplines in our place. There's no fighting. But of course, if you have one fire engineer, there can be challenges there. But for the project in whole, it's going to be a good thing. And it's going to be a good thing for the architects as well, because you get an updated model, you have a better interface with your fire engineers. So you're not sitting in the end of it, everything and having done it, and suddenly you find out that you have a wall that's really a problem. So you need to do something about it. And then you have to go back and optimize the design and stop the building or whatever you're doing there. So this is good. This is a good way to do it. Are there any challenges? Of course, there are challenges. ICT demands on the project. That has to be clarified as well. How do we talk to each other? And fire engineering 3D is new. Doing BIM fire is new, but other people have done it before. So we have solved it that way, talking with other people. How do they work and do that? Then, of course, there's a cooperation between architects and trades, because everybody has their own agenda. Architects, they have a certain criteria that the room has to be functional. Fire engineers often really don't have that. But again, with the communication we get, it's easier, it's better. So it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that's always been there. So it kind of solves some of it here. But of course, when you talk more to each other, you're also challenged that way. Another thing you need is a specialist fire consultant in modeling. And as stated, I've been working student worker for a year before I started using this project, and it's working. So it's not hard to use. You have a template, it's working. The interface is good. So for us, that's not really that hard. I talked a bit about on site earlier, saying what's the future possibilities. Solibri and Revista viewers, are we using that? We have a cooperation going on a project with Dialogues for our control plans, so everything is just on line in here. And the small thing you see down here with the blue one and the yellow, that's from a Revista viewer. So you're standing on site with your phone, looking at it and saying, what's the requirement here? You open up and it's actually written as a text. What is the requirement for this role? So you can't really, like, if you make a mistake here, it's because you want to make a mistake. And then, of course, we're going to collaborate with Naviate Bimfire in the future as well, because we see a benefit for us in getting this software up and running and getting it better and better. And it's good, but of course, you can always improve stuff. So that was me, Christian Wagner, technical lead here in Atelia. You can always find me on LinkedIn or send me a mail if you have any questions.
Here you got a QR code if you want to book a free meeting and try to download a 30-day free trial. If you want to know more about Bimfire, thank you everyone for joining for our webinar.